Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird at the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Monday, December 2nd, 2024. It is the 12th of Sagittarius, and I've decided that Mondays will be the days of Mrs. Claus. And in this lovely little piece, we see Mrs. Claus busy doing a little bit of painting. Oh, there's a lot of really cute artwork coming out that is focused on Mrs. Claus. So I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. In our astrology, the sun is in Sagittarius, mutable fire representing adventure. The moon begins the day in first quarter Sagittarius, mutable fire representing adventure. Then at 9:47 a.m. Central Time, it goes void, of course, and at 3:09 p.m. Central Time, it moves into first quarter Capricorn, a cardinal earth sign that represents tradition. And as this is the time of year that is all about tradition, the ones we're carrying forward, the ones we're establishing now, it's just lovely energy for us to play with. Mercury is retrograding in Sagittarius, mutable fire, representing travel disruptions. Venus is in Capricorn, cardinal earth, which is to be reserved. Mars is in Leo, fixed fire, representing focus. Jupiter is retrograding in Gemini, mutable air, which is to broaden perspective. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable water, representing nostalgia. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus, fixed earth, representing rebellion. Neptune is retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which is spiritual awakenings. And Pluto is an Aquarius fixed air representing reformation. For our retrogrades, Mercury, rethink your communication patterns. For Jupiter, reconnect with your true path. For Uranus, reconsider how you rebel. Neptune, reclaim your magic. And Chiron, restore the heroic spirit. Our current moon is a waxing crescent, which means that it's time for us to nurture ourselves and our new ideas. And the theme for any Capricorn moon is sobriety and discipline. So if you're needing to get that to do list crossed off, the Capricorn moon is absolutely going to help you out. Just keep that in mind as you go through the day, lean into that energy. So the moon has begun to wax and it is gaining strength. So it's time for us to really get to work on those intentions that we set yesterday. And now that the moon is in Capricorn, it will be much easier for us to actually settle down and just get to work. Focus on making any progress if you can. If you are stymied in one area, set it aside for the time being, make progress on something else where you can, and then gradually you'll eat away at all of the projects. And the next thing you know, it's all done. You've accomplished everything you intended to do. And that's a wonderful feeling. Our tarot for today is good. The 10 of good cheer. The number 10 in this deck represents culminations, endings, and beginnings. And the suit of good cheer is aligned with the suit of cups and, of course, the element of water. And the keywords for this card are reunion, domestic bliss, harmony, and family. And that's very much what we see with this couple. You know, they've got the little mistletoe. They're about to do a little kissy wissy. The kids are making a snowman in the background. You know, we have the tree in the foreground that's decorated with all of these various cups. And it's just a charming, beautiful seasonal scene. And it really shows us where our focus should really be at this time of year about reforging our connections with each other. About focusing upon, you know, actually having a happy home and, you know, making the effort to be happy and add good energy into the atmosphere every single day, learning to be more in harmony with one another, not having to make everything be this big drawn out battle. And of course, thinking of the family. You know, I think all of us in our hearts, you know, we want the blessings to where we do have this family that is, we are as we are, but you know, we're mostly getting along, we're focusing on each other's good points. And of course, sometimes that means we have to set the example of doing that, and it doesn't have to be in an over the top, fakey kind of way. It just, you know, maybe if usually you would throw a fit about something, just, I'm not doing that today. And of course, if we get in the habit of not doing that at this time of year, that teaches us a lot of self control over the next few weeks. And then maybe in the new calendar year, that's something we can take with us, you know, not reverting back to form, but just saying, you know, it was actually nicer when I wasn't making mountains out of molehills. So, think about where you can create opportunities for greater harmony. And this isn't about never setting boundaries or letting anyone to walk all over you, but it is about not sweating the little stuff quite so much. Next up, our Celtic triad. Three securities of wisdom: memory, reflection, and custom. The memory of lessons well learned is absolutely essential for the creation of wisdom. If you do not remember what you learned, you absolutely cannot apply that knowledge to your future behavior. So, memory is essential. And then reflection, that's necessary for the continuance and growing of wisdom. It's only when we stop and actually think about what things mean and how things really are that we're going to be able to really give ourselves the necessary fuel for adjustments that we need to make, or if we're thinking about, perhaps I stopped doing this one thing, perhaps that isn't actually so brilliant after all. And then custom. The custom in acting in accordance with wisdom requires deliberately forming habits based upon your lessons. You can be extremely intentional about this. And of course, anything becomes easier if it becomes a habit, whether it's making our bed in the morning. It's easier to do that if it's a habit that we just do every day, almost like a reflex, than it is that we do it once every month or so, or, oh no, someone's coming to the house. I have to pretend I actually live in a more tidy environment than I really do. See, a small, persistent efforts add up to a lot. And that's the same with our household chores as it is with our spiritual progress, as it is with us making improvements in how we treat our loved ones. And honestly, in how we govern our own thought processes. Because there are some thought processes that it's not in our best interest to really indulge, and there are others that it really is to our benefit if we continue to build them up and carry them on. So thinking about all of these things, especially since we do want to carry good things forward from the season, we do want to get 2025 off to a good start. We can just these are things that we can continuously have in mind and just work towards it. Then for today's correspondence collection, it's on the theme of awareness. The color is silver. The plant is mushroom. The animal is the fox, and the crystal is celestite. Silver is a very reflective. It's also very conductive. That can actually is part of the reason why it triggers hyper awareness for us. Certain kinds of mushrooms certainly have given people different sorts of awareness. I'm not encouraging illegal behavior where you live. And of course, make sure that if you are taking in mushrooms, whether to eat them with your meal or for other purposes, make sure that, of course, they are the safe variety to do so. You don't want to end up in the emergency room. And then foxes are known for animals of being of the in between, easily sliding between this side of the veil and the other. They can help promote a very different kind of awareness, a spiritual awareness. So if that's something you're working on this season, reaching out to the fox totem could be very beneficial right now. And then celestite, that's just something that just kind of increases and amplifies your senses. And so all growth and change really does begin with awareness, and that awareness is followed by acceptance. And of course, that culminates in actual action. It's useless being aware of something if we are not taking corresponding action. So just keep that in mind if this is something that you choose to work on in the coming weeks. Then from here, our hearth-keeping hint has to do with stagnant corners. And the picture I found of you, you have the tree in the corner, and then of course this is obviously after present day, and so everything's just in complete disarray. But you can just feel that the energy is already stagnating, and that's essentially what messes and disorder and a general lack of cleanliness and tidiness really does. It makes energy stagnate, and this is really bad when that energy gets trapped in a corner because it slows down, it stagnates even more, and ultimately that can generate very baneful energy. And sometimes when people think, I have some kind of terrible spirit in my house, no, you have stagnating energy, and you think of it. Oh, I'm trying not to gross people out during the season of good cheer, but I'm going to have to go there. But if you think about, pond water and that kind of stagnation, the water was fine when it first arrived there, probably, but as it built up and as it you just kind of sat there, things started to live in it. It attracted other gross, slimy, icky stuff, and that's what energy does if we're not keeping our households tidy, or if we're not being mindful of how things can get trapped in corners. And also, it can upset any household spirits that you do have around, things like the house brownie, or if you have an ancestor looking over your shoulder, or just whatever that it is. It's not creating a nice environment for them. And so that can put them in a bad mood. So, a lot of, hauntings and other spiritual issues. Uh, Try cleaning and organizing your house first before panicking, because you may find that, just once the energy is flowing better, the atmosphere is better, everything's happy, and then you just need to maintain it. So regularly tidy all your corners, unblocking them from furniture if possible, and of course burn incense like Palo Santo, dragon's blood. Sage is very good if you're trying to move something out of the house. Just do that very regularly. If again, it's all about the habits that we form. If we have good habits with this, the energy is not going to get to a particularly bad state. And this is why I really recommend having a specific cleaning days where you can just do this, where it's just part of the routine. Maybe after, the last thing I do in my household cleaning is, running the vacuum. So after the vacuum is done, then I take a smudge stick of some kind or I burn some incense and I just waft it through the house. And that's, the last stage of the process. And then peace. You can do these things and it doesn't really take that long. Now for our practices of today. The Yule log was originally intended to burn through a multi-day festival as long as 12 days. Originally Yuletide, it lasted as long as, the brew that had been beered, the beer that had been brewed, I should say. As long as that lasted, that was the length of the festival. And then over time, things, of course, get more formalized. And, now, then the Christians had their 12 days of Christmas. And so, we're taking that 12-day season, we're making it all about Yule. And, and if you have a log that can actually burn that long and you have a fireplace to accommodate it and you can do it safely, that would be pretty awesome once the time comes. Another thing we might do today is to greet the dusk, especially if, people have already put out their lights for the season. If you put your lights out for the season, there's something about going out just as the sun is heading down below the horizon and you have the lights on and everything is just blissful. So enjoy that. Today's archetype is the Snow Queen. So, what comes to your mind regarding that particular idea? Then, for a meditation today, think about the theme of the dark is deepening. What does that mean for you? And then you might decide to carry or wear some moonstone today. In our creative corner, we're going to be talking about seasonal quilts. Now, I come from the Midwestern United States, and quilting is a very time honored craft. It's something I'm planning to take up in the future. I'm not saying that ladies are legally required to do so, but it is something that has a lot of cultural meaning, especially anyone who's only a few generations removed from the farm, or this is just something that has already been done. And it's a craft that is both practical and decorative. It actually, the custom of quilting began as early as 3400 BCE. So over 5,000 years. I mean, imagine that. And that's just, as early as what we know about. I mean, who knows, with all the history we've lost, how far back it might really go. But we do know for sure that it goes back as far as that. So if you are looking for a project or you're seeking to take up a new skill or you just want to support an artisan, consider adding a Yule or Christmas quilt to your decor this year. You could make it. You could start by experimenting with patchwork. It's pretty late in the year to actually have one ready to go, for Yule itself. So this could be a project that you're beginning this year with the intention of using it next year. And if you know anything about sacred geometry, you can really incorporate some of that knowledge into how you structure the design. So, because you see, these are all geometric shapes, whether it is squares or it is triangles or diamond shapes, rectangles, it's all about those mathematical forms. And you can do a lot of really creative stuff. You can actually have some patches that, if you do embroidery, you could choose perhaps representation of reindeer or something else, and you can incorporate that into your quilt. There's so many different things you can do with this. It can be extraordinarily symbolic, and I really don't encourage people to be in the broom closet these days. But if you are still there for reasons best known to yourself, having this kind, taking up this kind of project, doing this kind of quilting, it is a way where you can infuse a lot of magical energies in a way that people won't really notice. They'll admire your skill and what you do, but they won't necessarily associate it with paganism. But again, I really don't encourage people to stay in the broom closet. I don't think it's particularly healthy to essentially live a lie and give a false impression of yourself. I don't think that's for the long term good. And for anyone who is in the broom closet, I would encourage you to think about what happens when the day comes that you are found out. How is that going to impact your relationships? Because a lot of people, they do stay in the broom closet because they're afraid of how it could have a bad impact upon their relationships or not being accepted or anything like that. But I'm here to tell you, things have a way of coming to the surface. People have a way of finding things out. So think about maybe it would be much better outcome if you simply tell people as opposed to letting them find out of and then having to take those consequences. Because when people find out something like that, especially if you've been deliberately hiding from it, they will feel as if they were lied to. And whether or not you think they're justified in that feeling isn't going to be the point. They will still feel that way, and that won't be a fun thing to unravel. So, just something to bear in mind there. Then, for today's journal prompt, does the dark feel restrictive to you, or is it more like a comforting blanket? This again goes into just kind of exploring how you're having your own individual reaction. And, if you can wax ecstatic, if this is something you really like, and if it's something that you don't, you can explore those feelings through the page, get them out onto the page, which sometimes that helps get it out of your system. And of course, that also is an opportunity for you to brainstorm better and improved coping mechanisms. So that is what I have for you, everyone. Have a magical day. I, of course, continue to wish you bright blessings and the joys of the season. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.